You're listening to Enjoy It While It Lasts. I'm your host, Herman Faust. Today's Newsish starts by looking at the election results, both locally and around the country. I'll talk about what the amendments to the Texas Constitution actually mean and share my thoughts on this administration's two-pronged attack on the citizens' will to resist. In global news, we follow up on the Louvre artifact heist and Three Eye Atlas's trajectory before looking into the increase of fatal bear attacks in Japan. Tom Brady announced his dog has been cloned by the same company that will bring us dinosaurs. A short break for sports quick hits before I discuss Dart possibly being removed from local suburbs. And then I wrap up with Waco being brought into the modern world. If you're not already, be sure to follow me at Soul Rack Productions on whatever your favorite social media platform is. That's Soul Rack with a K. Now, let's get to the newsish. Hi. So I had a blowout yesterday. I was on the highway, and suddenly heard a little pop. Knew right away what it was. Felt my car started shaking a little bit, and so I quickly was able to get myself over to the side of the shoulder, and by the time I did cross lanes and slow down to a stop, my tire was shredded. So I had to obviously hit up roadside assistance to come tow my car. Then, as I'm waiting there, I try to get an Uber or a Lyft, but the first person, at least, the first ride that started to accept me, then ended up turning it down once they figured out I was on the side of a highway. So then a tow truck pulls up behind me. And at first I'm thinking it's my guy from the insurance coming here a lot sooner than I thought, but it was a random tow truck that was just passing by, saw the car. Anyway, since I told him I wasn't gonna pay extra for a tow truck for him, since my insurance was already gonna cover it, I did need a ride though. So I threw some cash his way, and he gave me a ride back to my house. So yeah, that's what I was dealing with yesterday. Because of that, I am solo today. I was not able to drive out to Waco. I am getting a tire replacement today, but was not able to do it in time to be able to make it to Waco and back to record with Trisha. So just me. We're going to start off a little bit differently than normal. Instead of starting off with global, because of the elections, we're going to jump right into a little bit more serious into election result news. First thing I want to say is that Texas had the highest voter turnout in a non-presidential year. About 3 million ballots, or 15% of eligible voters voted. Out of the constitutional amendments, there were 17 proposed, all of them passed. I'm not going to go down each and every one, but I do have a few things to say about some of them. The first ones I'm going to talk about are, I'm going to group together the three different ban on different taxes proposed. There's a ban now the ban passed on state capital gains tax, on security and financial transactions tax, and inheritance estate tax. These were all the propositions or proposed amendments, that passed with the closest voter percentages. I guess I'm trying to say they were the closest to not passing, but they still passed. The other thing that ties these three together is they are basically gifts to people who already have more than enough of what they need. The ban on state capital gains tax makes no sense to me when one of the justifications for people making money as investors is that they're taking risk, and basically that risk is supposed to be similar and equivalent to the work and effort that laborers put in to different industries. So when your labor is still getting taxed, and I think pretty much everybody understands it has to be, what I why then would that risk not also be taxed at the appropriate rates? Any type of the same for the question I have for any type of securities or financial transaction taxes being banned. You're saying that if you're making money off of trade, we don't tax that money, even though again that's part of the way our system works. Is you're gonna have if you're gonna make trade, you're using that way as your income, then that's supposed to be similar to using your labor to get income. The inheritance estate tax is a little bit different, but it still falls into the same category for me because it's not like if the tax rates were at appropriate levels, it's not like you're actively hurting anybody that's receiving inheritance. You can ease, just like with all tax brackets, it should be an escalation of percentage based off of how big the inheritance is. So somebody that is left very little by their family should possibly be exempt or at least have a very small percentage that they have to pay. And of course, going up to where if somebody left you $1 billion and that you simply inherited and did nothing to get, that should be taxed way, way higher. And there should be many, many levels in between. Otherwise, you're just kind of saying all gifts from parents are the same. And we all know that that's just not true. Put together, the three bans on these particular taxes definitely work to help people that have the power, have money, excuse me, keep the money. And of course, I said power because in a economy like ours, in a society like ours, if you have the money, you have the power. So it's just another form of consolidation of power and making it difficult for those with less of it to match those that are predisposed to having more of it simply by their randomness of birth. There's two of the amendments that basically do nothing at all, that serve purely as self-congratulatory noise and symbolic pats on the back that they got passed, and that's reaffirming parental rights as the saying that the parents of a child are the ultimate decision makers for that child, and reaffirming that you have to be a citizen to be able to vote. Both of these, again, do nothing because those are already the way things work. You're acting, it's a way to act as if you're getting something done. And look what we got passed. But it is just noise because those are already the laws in place. A couple of more positive amendments that got passed is starting a dementia research fund and the water infrastructure fund. These are examples of amendments that actually do change something and provide help to people. They actually do something that government is supposed to functionally do. So I say thumbs up to those two. Perhaps the worst, most outrageous amendment that got passed, in my opinion, is the one that allows the governor's power to expand over judicial oversight, basically giving the sitting governor of Texas a lot more power to throw out judges' orders or to ignore judges' orders. This is following a very disturbing trend in our country's the way our country is run, to now being shifted to state level of having one single person in power be able to overrule laws and overrule the whatever systems in place that they want to, and be given the right to do so by voters. Our country was created on checks and balances for a reason. There we fought against having kings and lords over us, and to be able to have a voice as a group, as a people. And this is a huge step into turning a governorship into a lordship. In a few notable national elections, Zoran Mamdani won the New York mayoral election. He beat Andrew Cuomo, who was backed by Donald Trump. This is big because he represents New York's first immigrant mayor and also first Muslim mayor. Um, he also is the first candidate that has gotten big notoriety, that is someone that is actually a more of a leftist than what normal Democrats would be. Also, the governor races in Virginia and New Jersey both went to the Democratic Party. And California voters approved the new House map, which will create new seats for the U.S. House of Representatives, which many think is going, and of course it seems obvious, is going to add more Democratic seats to the House. Even in Texas, the Republican Senate race that was the biggest contention is going to be a runoff. The Democratic candidate received a majority of the vote, but did not quite reach the 50% mark. So the top two candidates are going to go into a runoff here in a bit to see who wins that seat. Overall, nationwide, pretty much every major election that was in contention went the Democratic Party's way. A lot of exit polls are gathering that the voters' response to surveys basically suggest that extreme disapproval in Trump's job right now is what has led to most of the Democratic Party's victories. Besides elections, also in the national news right now, the government shutdown is, of course, still ongoing. And Donald Trump has refused judges' orders to fund SNAP benefits, calling the suspension of benefits unlawful. 42 million Americans are affected by the loss of SNAP benefits. And despite these court rulings, these Americans, these families, these children are still going to be hungry and not sure where their next meal is going to come from. If this is not a clear attempt at trying to starve out the public to break their will, I don't know what is. A second prong on the attack of the American public's will is the violence being escalated by ICE agents. In the month of October alone, there were 2 separate shootings of U.S. citizens by ICE agents. The first incident happened in Brighton Park in Chicago. Agents claimed they were rammed and boxed in by up to 10 cars. And they claimed that the woman that they shot was armed with a semi-automatic weapon and that she was brandishing her weapon. It was later found with video evidence that the cars were not only not boxed in, there was no evidence of being rammed. The vehicle that was claimed to have been rammed, the ICE agents tried to replace it. They took it out of state. They drove it out of state and had to be told by a judge to bring it back so that it could actually be entered as evidence. There also was no video evidence of her brandishing any weapons at all. The video evidence shows the ICE agents being very aggressive, telling her to do something, bitch, before they shoot. And then after their escalation, they did proceed to shoot. Then last week, a Southern California man was driving along when he sees ICE agents performing a stop where they have somebody pulled over. And whenever he went over to he stopped himself and pulled over and went over to the ICE agents and told them that this is an area where school kids are about to start coming to get gathered to wait for the school bus. He was trying to encourage them to basically kind of finish up whatever they were going to do before a bunch of kids got around. Um, the ICE agents then proceeded to wave their guns at him and then threaten him with mace, which of course causes him to get back in his car and go away. Because I think even the ICE agents would have said was what they wanted him to do, basically, right? Get the fuck out of there. That's not. They would say it's none of his business. And then as he is getting in his car trying to leave, they shoot him. He was hit in the shoulder. Then to add further insult to injury, they arrest him and try to charge him with assault on an ICE agent when he was clearly trying to get the fuck away. The last incident I will bring up was the one in Chicago where there's videos and plenty of eyewitness reports of ICE coming into a neighborhood and throwing tear gas canisters where home around near homes that where people were gathered, where people were putting up Halloween decorations, where people were setting up for a parade, a neighborhood parade. There were children, there were families, they were setting up for a neighborhood parade. ICE claimed that they were told they were coming into a hostile environment, and when they got there, it must have looked scary and hostile to them with all of the Halloween decorations up. They probably thought that there were real monsters there. Who knows? They aren't very smart, obviously. And they threw in they escalated the situation by throwing in canisters. This was very, very clearly another attempt at just simply bullying a neighborhood, at just striking fear into people. ICE is going around trying their best to strike fear so that the U.S. public will just kind of stand down anytime they see them. They walk around with their mask, with their guns, with their tear gas, and they have zero accountability for who they arrest, for who they hurt, and the only accountability they do have is when the public steps in and tries to stop a situation from happening. So they are now escalating to bully and scare the public into not trying to get in their way. It follows straight down the line of what the full administration does to the public. ICE is clearly just the enforcing branch of this Trump administration. Okay. Time to take a step back a little bit and look out at the rest of the world. I'm going to start today by going back to the Louvre Heist and giving an update on that. There have been 2 suspects arrested since I last spoke about it. They both were arrested on October 25th. One somewhere in Paris and one at the airport attempting to board a flight to Algeria. Only one item has been recovered, the crown of the Empress Eugenie, I believe. However, that was damaged. The remaining jewels are missing, so authorities caution that the jewels could have been cut, melted, or recut, and that they may be irrecoverable in their original form. These jewels may have already been sold off, or there may be some other unfound suspect as of now. The investigators found over 150 traces of DNA and fingerprints left behind at the scene. So even though this was a very brazen heist, they didn't do a good job at all of trying to prevent DNA evidence being left behind. Considering the fact that one suspect was arrested trying to board a plane to get out of the country, it's very possible that any remaining suspects also have fled the country already and possibly have taken the stolen goods with them. So I guess it is still a chance that there are some that got away with it, at least for now. A story from the file that Trisha wanted me to make sure that I included was the increase in bear attacks happening in Japan. In the fiscal year of 2025, Japan recorded 7 fatalities from bears since April. Excuse me. This is a new record of fatal attacks, and over 100 people have been injured in bear attacks just in the 6 months between April and September. Compare that to the what is the norm for them, which is about 80 injuries in an entire year, and that also was the same number that was in the previous fiscal year. In one northern prefecture, Sapporo, they recorded 71 brown bear sightings in September alone, and that is 5 times the number of sightings from September of 2023. There's a few local areas that are deploying emergency measures and even asking military for help in containing bears, or I should say, keeping the public safe from these bears. Experts think there are a few reasons for their increases. There's a few theories out there. One of it is that it's a hotter, drier summer, which has reduced the oak and beech nut production that they usually would be key food sources for these bears. Also, the warmer winters have shortened hibernation or even prevented it entirely for some bears, which is forcing them to forage year round and causing them to get closer to human settlements. There's also been a huge decline in their traditional hunting grounds, and there's been depopulation in their rural areas. This has led to bears moving into towns more and getting closer to homes and tourist areas. And there's even a lot of cases where bears are entering shops and houses. So basically, humans have taken away a lot of their hunting grounds. Our effects on climate change is starting to affect these bears, and now we're starting to see some of these effects in Japan, where we're having more clash between bears and people. And while people and humanity are doing way more damage to these bears, in any individual clash, a bear's gonna fuck a person up. So that's what's been going on in Japan with these attacks. Another quick check-in, because this is something we've talked about on the show here before, is on 3i Atlas. It has now passed its closest point to the sun, and it is still behind the sun for us to be able to see here on Earth. However, shortly it should come out from behind where we can see it through telescopes, and it's clear at this point that it's going to pass by nowhere close to any planet, including Earth or the Moon. It's going to be way outside of the closest projections that we were given a while back. So no need for any Armageddon style rescue mission, at least this time. So instead, let's look and see how close we are to Jurassic Park becoming a reality with another check-in on maybe our most intriguing company that we like to talk about in Colossal Bioscience. For anyone that's not aware, this is the company that has successfully cloned direwolf DNA. Those pups are over a year old at this point, by the way. They have successfully got them to show or the animals show 10 out of the 14 targeted uh, dire wolf um, traits that they were looking for to make sure that they got the cloning correct, including the way their skull looks, their size, and their coat. Um, so they might not have got the perfectly accurate to the direwolf yet, but this is their first, at least their first major attempt, and was it's very successful, um, and considering that, and they are continuing on. We've talked about before. They plan on doing dodo birds. They are ready to start those trials by late 2026. They're also trying to create a cold resistant elephant, aka the woolly mammoth. Um, this one, they believe the birth will happen sometime in 2028. Another one that I just realized that I didn't know before that they were doing is bringing back the Tasmanian tiger or the Tasmanian devil. Um, they have already, I got the stem cells they needed to start this project. They're expected to start embryos, making embryos, excuse me, and having them implanted in surrogates also in 2027. The reason we're bringing them up today, though, is because of Tom Brady. Apparently, Tom Brady is an investor in this company, but more than that, apparently he is a customer of the company. He also the Colossal Biosciences also they took over. They purchased a different DNA company that specifically worked on. Oh, that saw is distracting to me. Sorry about that, guys. They are specifically the company that they took over was specifically working on how to clone dogs. And Tom Brady a few years back got his dog's DNA saved with him. Apparently, it cost almost $1 million to collect the DNA and have it stored. Um, and then on top of that, he won the dog pass. He went ahead and had them proceed with the cloning process. So now Tom's new dog is the same as Tom's old dog. He's not the first celebrity that I've heard of that has done this type of thing, but I'm guessing because it's Tom Brady, his dog is the first one that is perfectly the same as his old dog. I can imagine other celebrities attempting it, but for somehow, some way, he because he's in the process, the actual brain of the dog is just gonna be like full of memories. Even he's so touched. He seems to have such the golden touch in his life that everything works out for him. I also I gotta believe that because he is who he is, and going along with all the other work that this company is doing, it's hard for me not to believe that his DNA is not stored somewhere, waiting for the point for us to start creating human clones. Um, I wonder how the NFL would feel about having 15 Tom Brady clones as their quarterback base. That's that seems like it's getting closer enough to a reality that at some point I'm gonna have to want to do a full Friday deep dive on just the science and morality of cloning just to begin with, because science seems like we're pretty much getting there. For now, though, before it does get to humans, it seems like we're going to have to deal with a bunch of previously extinct animals first. And, and as I've said from the very beginning of hearing the story, we are very much on track for a very real world Jurassic Park situation. One quick hit note I wanted to include with entertainment news today was the fact that Predator Badlands is coming out this week. And I don't know about you guys, but me and my wife are big fans of the Predator franchise. I think they're all really fun movies. They including all of the cheesy, not good ones. They're just fun. And this one seems to be the first time we get to follow a predator as the main character. So I'm curious to see how well they make us as an audience feel emotionally invested into this predator's uh, becoming a successful hunter. It seems like the story is going to be about him uh, being looked at as a. Oh, my cats are suddenly deciding to chase each other all around me. It seems like they're going to be looking at each other at the movie. It seems like, excuse me, that the main character predator is trying to prove himself in some hunting grounds they have, or a training planet, or something like that. And it looks like he's going to be teaming up with a android of some kind. Um, I think that it's going to be a very high chance that they can do that, making you care about him as a character because he's not actively hunting humans in this movie. But it is funny knowing that you're trying to support this character and this culture that they're in when a huge part of it is they like to kill people for fun. Um, this is also the first movie apparently that is PG-13, which I didn't realize that the other all of the Predator movies had been rated R before. I guess they're trying to expand the audience and realize that they have a lot. If they go this route, they have a lot more of a possibility of a younger fan base with the kind of action adventure route. That does worry me slightly, but their movies were never really that scary anyway. Even the whatever you think the most scariest Predator movie is, which probably would be the very first Predator movie in my opinion. It has it has high tension, it has high moments of I guess building suspense, but it never really felt scary. Like unlike Alien, which Alien movies they feel scary, at least the first few. So I don't know. Maybe them going away from an R rating and down to the PG-13 is gonna be beneficial for them. This next story is also, I guess, kind of entertainment news, but it's a little bit of just what's happening around the U.S. too, and that there's going to be a few locations of Six Flags closing soon. Two closed down this week in Maryland, the Six Flags location and also the water park they had there. They say that when they announced it, the decision, the company said that the Bowie Park is not a strategic fit in its long-term growth strategy. Basically, saying they don't get enough revenue there. Um, the other part of it, though, is that they are planning on closing down a third location, Six Flags Great America in Santa Clara, California. That one is already, they're planning to let the lease just run up and not try to work on extending it anymore and let that one also close down. They say they have no current plans, or excuse no. I think the wording was no current public plans to close any additional parks beyond these for now. So that sounds a lot like to me. They are also losing enough money to where they are going to need to close another location at some point unless things turn around for them. A major theme park company deciding to close down several locations and possibly needing to close more is a huge sign that U.S. families do not have enough expendable income, or at least do not have what they used to have just a short time ago. People are choosing that they can't they can't use their money to go just simply to have a day of fun or to buy the season passes anymore. Um, I think this is more of an indictment on our current state of an economy than anything else. I think that if people had money, it's proven. Theme parks have proven to be money makers. Six Flags is obviously nationwide for a reason. Families like to go out and spend the day there having fun together when they can. So to me, it's more of a that's why I say it's more of a sign of where we are in the economy right now than anything else. So now I'm going to take a step back and from what's going on around us and look into sports a little bit. On my last solo broadcast, I kind of I joked how disconnected I am from baseball lately, and that remained true. But for some reason, I was able to get myself into watching the World Series, and I'm glad I did. That's pretty much the only baseball I took in this year. But I watched a great World Series. It went back and forth, went to game seven and went to extra innings in game seven. It was extremely exciting. I got to watch one of the most impressive players in the history of baseball, Shohei Ohtani. Um, he's for those that don't know, he pitches and hits and does both at a top of the league level. Um, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how many players in 10 to 15 years from now try to do both and are allowed to do both. Um, Now seeing him, I bet you there's a lot of people, a lot of kids that then grew up into adults that had the idea that they could do both, but since it's not normally done, teams tend to, at some point in your development, tend to force you into one path. You're going to be a pitcher, or you're going to be a hitter. In that way, I kind of compare Otani. If this does follow through and he does have the impact of players being allowed to do both, I would compare his impact on the game similar to like Steph Curry's impact on the NBA, to where everybody now realizes how valuable a 3-point shot is. To the series itself, like I said, it was back and forth. There was an 18 inning game. The game seven ended in the 11th inning, so there was tons of super high tension. I've always said playoff baseball is maybe the most tense tense to watch, and if you're emotionally invested in it, because even when you're not emotionally invested, it's still tense. While it's not part of that becomes there's because there's so much room to breathe in between each pitch and in between each play. There is so much room that you fully are in the like have the weight of every moment on you, as opposed to basketball where it's a nonstop flow, and football has those a bunch of bursts. Um, in hockey, it's the nonstop flow, and now hockey maybe rivals it for tension because the hockey has the aspect that it's kind of the combination of there's the flow, nonstop flow, but then the instant burst of a goal could happen at any moment. But for me, baseball is the most tense because of how slow moving it is, I should say. And this World Series definitely lived up to that tension. It pulled me in as I'm a sports fan, but as I mentioned, have not watched baseball this year, and it still completely pulled me in and captivated me once I gave it a chance. I should at least say the result. The Toronto Blue Jays lost in Game Seven to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers. This is their ninth World Series overall, and this ties them for the third most World Series wins in league history. A couple of quick hits on the local teams here. The Stars are starting off strong. They start off with the year with a three-game winning streak, three-game losing streak, and have since got back on the winning side again. Um, I start with them because they are the local team that most deserves it. I think they are by far the high. They have by far the highest chance of any local teams of doing anything in the playoffs once they get here. This is just a quick check-in. I'm gonna save any deep sports looks for a different time. The Dallas Mavericks have started off the year 2-5, and they are uh, even a little bit worse than I had feared they would be to start their year. I know I did say, and I do think that they have a chance that by the end of this year to be a team that that does make some noise in the playoffs. However, That will take them getting Kyrie Irving back, which will not happen until much later. I, of course, nobody should have thought at least that Cooper Flagg was going to just jump in as a rookie and be able to show off his full potential night to night. If you thought that, you were spoiled by Luka. You didn't realize that Luka was the exception, not the rule. Um, the biggest disappointment, I guess, would be Anthony Davis's performance. He's played, I guess, very lackluster, I'll say, on defense. He has not been the defensive player that he has been in the past this year so far. I admit though that I have not been locked into the games. It's hard for me. Every time I've turned on a Mavs game, I basically am doing it as a matter of fact way. I'm not at all emotionally invested in the team anymore. It has not come back to me. I don't know if it will or not, but I try to just watch it and analyze what I see for a little bit of time each at a time. And just safe to say that the team is not looking good to start the year. So we traded our franchise for, um, well, not a better future and not a better now either. So, anyway, to the Cowboys. They also are showing me that they're a little bit worse than what I had thought they were throughout the beginning of this year. Their offense is definitely not the best in the league like it was statistically at one point. It There's too many flaws with the offensive line and just not enough consistency there at all. I think Dak has played good this year. I don't know that he has. If you take the whole year into account, I wouldn't say great. I'd say good. I think that their offense basically is about the same. Maybe I would say that overall as the offense though, they are closer to average than good because it seems like they only beat up and score points on the worst in the league, following a pattern of the last few years where it seems like they can't put up a fight against a good team anymore. Um, the defense remains to be, if not the worst, one of the two or three worst defenses in the league. This could have been seen coming before they traded Micah Parsons. Just last year, there were statistics to show that with the difference of their effectiveness with him on and off the field. They seemed to very over heavily rely on his play, on his pressures to make the rest of the defense work. And when they took out one of the best defensive rushers in the league, the rest of their defense has not figured out how to just work without that one player that can provide just constant pressure. They tried to solve that by trading away one of their first round picks they got for they got a couple of picks for when they traded Micah Parsons, and they traded one of those away this week to bring in another defensive lineman that is good. I'm not going to downplay this player they got. I'm not going to say that he's not what he is. He's a good player. He's one of the top, I don't know, maybe top 10 defensive tackles. And they're going to be much better against the rush. They should be better against the pass game as well. But he's not a Micah Parsons. He's not going to make the same type of impact that he made. And considering where they are already in this year, I don't know why they would trade away one of their first round picks for somebody like this. It just goes to show that Jerry Jones has no cohesive plan and is always reacting in the moment. Because of that, you end up with a shit show that you have. The Cowboys have continued to just like break me down, and I don't know even how much I care about watching their games anymore. I have such a huge passion for sports, and I have such a huge loyalty to my teams. Like I got my teams tatted on me, and I've spent my life getting mad at people that would say they're fans, but then never actually try to be optimistic or never show um, any actual loyalty to their teams. I've always thought that if you pick a fan, you pick a team, you're a fan of that team. That's just how it works. You don't get to try to be a fan of a different team. You're not their whole emotional investment and paying the emotional cost of losing is the only thing that really makes it worth it when you finally win. If you're just kind of you get surface level happiness if you just kind of bounce around from being a fan of the best teams. That being said, the Cowboys are worn me down so much. It's not that I'm ever switching allegiances, but they've just made me not care anymore. Um, and they basically have done to me over the years what the Mavs did to me in one fell swoop. And take somebody who is an extremely loyal, passionate fan and turn them into somebody that is basically indifferent to the team. I didn't even get mad this last week whenever I was watching the Cowboys lose to the Cardinals on Monday Night Football because it was all just expected. Even though coming into it, you had home field, you're playing against one of the other bad teams in the league. There was all the reasons to expect the Cowboys to come out and outperform what they did and to pull out a win, but it's just not surprising at all to me when games like that happen. All right, let's move on to some local news that actually matters. Farmers Branch, Plano, and Highland Park are all going, they've all had their city council meetings, and it has resulted in they are all going to have a special vote in the city to decide whether or not they remain part of the DART transportation system. The key issue that is causing them to want to pull out is they claim pay they pay way more into DART transportation with their taxes than they get service wise. There's been complaints that a silly complaint that rides take longer in these areas, which it just kind of makes geographical sense because they're farther away. But the more realistic complaints is just that they don't have a high usage rate as like the city of Dallas would have, or as other suburban areas around it would have. Um, and that probably is a very valid statement that they don't have as high of a need. But because they don't have as high of a need, they are considering just completely getting rid of the services altogether. Because of how spread out we are and how big of an area we are, we're never going to have a perfect system of transportation. However, every step we make towards making it better allows for what allows for the freedom of movement, allows for the freedom of opportunity for people to be able to search for different jobs because we are a area that has um, more jobs than most, I should say. But because of the limitations on transportation, it makes a lot of those jobs inaccessible to a lot of the potential employees, which is kind of the point of having this type of public transportation to begin with. It's never going to be perfect, but because it's not perfect, is not a reason to just scrap the whole thing altogether. There are people that depend on being able to ride a DART rail to go to this higher paying job out in Plano that they would not be able to have access to without it. And that doesn't even take into account if your chosen healthcare professional is in an office that is in one of these suburban areas that would make it that you'd rely on DART to get back and forth there. You would be forced to then have to change whatever your service provider is to somebody who you would rather not have. I don't know. I'm not going to get up here and pretend like I think this is the hugest issue in the world, but it definitely is an issue that is going to affect real people in real ways if DART does end up leaving these communities. So I would encourage anybody that takes what I say seriously. If you live in these areas, when the day comes to vote, I would encourage you to vote to keep DART in your area. I think that public transportation can only help us as even those that don't use it. It helps you by the more people that do use it, the more available it is. It helps the streets become less clogged. It helps our pollution emissions. It also helps the cities that they're in ways that most people don't think about. It allows you the opportunity to actually host different events because any major event is less likely to be hosted in a city like Plano that's not directly in the center of the Metroplex if there is no way for people to be able to go back and forth, let's say, easily. Um, you're a lot more likely to have any major events scheduled inside of a city that does have access to public transportation. Also in the DF Dub, there has been another arrest in the major Lego theft ring that has been going on. Um, the theft ring is not isolated to North Texas at all, but the most recent arrest is a 28-year-old suspect, Winston Love, who has been accused of stealing over $37,000 worth of merchandise from Target stores across North America, mainly Legos, as I said. This uh, this has been an ongoing issue, and this ring keeps on getting uncovered to be bigger and bigger as more arrests have been made. This particular individual is believed to have pulled off 23 of the thefts in all major North Texas cities: Dallas, Plano, Fort Worth, Irving, Arlington, Frisco, and it's more that I haven't named. Um, and he is believed to be part of the larger theft ring that has extended into other states as well. I don't have a lot of commentary on this one. I just want to bring it up as because this story overall just kind of interests me. I want to know when they get. I want to be able to see when they get to the bottom of this, just how big this ring of Lego thieves are, and just how widespread this is. Because I know as much as I know, Legos is a huge deal. I guess I didn't realize just how huge of a deal Legos has become. I blame Minecraft for the resurgence of Lego popularity. On to Waco news. I got two Waco stories to wrap up today's newsish. The first story is that there are going to be artificial intelligence traffic systems put up. Artificial intelligent driven sensors put up on traffic lights in downtown Waco. And this is a kind of a testing where the test starts, and the plan is to expand it through a much larger area of Waco and a much larger area of McLennan County. The sensors will track cars waiting, incoming traffic, as well as pedestrians and cyclists crossing the roads. The project is initially starting and focusing on intersections and the corridor between Baylor University campus and downtown. Um, this is a federal grant funded program, so it's not a cost to taxpayers in Waco area. a separate contract has been given to the company to as long as I guess depending the success of this initial rollout to cross a 9 mile stretch in Waco, um, from including Taylor Street, Franklin Avenue, and the US 84 corridor. The flow cubes, as they're called, will be attached to traffic lights by the end of this year, 2025, and the full operational rollout is expected by April of 2026. Like I said, they're tracking both cars and pedestrian traffic. Where they're hoping to be able to see simple things like if there's one car stopped at a red light and there's no cars coming from any direction and no pedestrians coming from any direction, to quickly change that light to allow the car to pass through. They the goal is their minimum goal is to hope to improve traffic flow by around 30%. And if they reach that, that's when they will, if they reach at least that as a minimal metric, they will continue to expand. I'm not sure, this is not part of the story, but it feels very much like this is just like a testing ground that's probably happening in other smaller cities throughout the U.S. before it gets implemented into the bigger major metropolitan areas. This is one of the few this is one of the ways that I feel like AI should be implemented, that it could be very easy to give it the rules and the metrics for what you want the AI to follow, and then it be able to allow traffic flow to go much better. So on the one hand, it makes sense to me that it's starting in Waco, but it is funny to me that Waco is getting AI traffic lights before before Dallas. Another way the Waco area is stepping into the modern age is that they are getting drone delivery from Amazon. Amazon is going to bring in 12 of the MK30 drone models and is expected to have a 7.5 mile delivery radius around the Amazon fulfillment center off Exchange Parkway in Waco. They expect for this to be starting very soon before the year's end. One of the main concerns that people have with the drone deliveries is just how loud they are. I've heard people in other areas describe them as sounds like flying chainsaws. This newer model is supposed to have worked on that problem and has a lot less noise, but I guess we'll see what residents think once it actually gets started. This is supposed to be bringing in a few extra jobs to Waco as well, and hoping to help clear up heavy traffic areas by using these drones instead of normal delivery methods. And that's about all I got for you today. Thank you for sticking with me. If you've listened to me throughout, remember, you got one life to live. Enjoy it while it lasts.